Wife caught cheating with my son's best friend. Watch karma deliver the final blow. In this segment, we explore the narrator's long-term marriage, which has spanned an impressive 23 years, and the intricate family dynamics that have developed over the years. The narrator reflects on the characteristics of his wife, who has been a steadfast partner throughout their journey together. She is portrayed as nurturing, intelligent, and resilient, qualities that have not only enriched their relationship but have also played a crucial role in raising their children. Her ability to balance warmth with a strong sense of independence has created a supportive environment for the family, fostering open communication and mutual respect. The couple has been blessed with children who have grown into remarkable individuals, each with their own unique personalities and aspirations. Family vacations have become cherished traditions, serving as a backdrop for creating lasting memories. Whether it's a summer road trip to the mountains or a cozy winter getaway to a cabin by the lake, these experiences have strengthened their bonds and provided opportunities for laughter and connection. The narrator fondly recalls the excitement of planning these trips, the joy of exploring new places together, and the simple pleasure of spending quality time as a family. These moments have not only been about leisure but have also reinforced the values of togetherness and adventure, which the narrator hopes to pass down to his children. However, the narrator's journey to this fulfilling marriage has not been without its challenges. He candidly discusses his previous marriage, which was fraught with difficulties that ultimately led to its dissolution. The struggles he faced during that time were significant, marked by miscommunication and unmet expectations. This earlier experience taught him valuable lessons about the importance of honesty and vulnerability in a relationship. It also instilled in him a deeper appreciation for the stability and love he has found in his current marriage. The contrast between the two relationships highlights the growth he has undergone, both as an individual and as a partner. As the narrator reflects on his long-term marriage, he acknowledges the hard work and commitment required to maintain a healthy relationship. He emphasizes that love is not merely a feeling but a choice made daily, one that involves patience, understanding, and a willingness to grow together. The challenges faced in his previous marriage have equipped him with insights that he applies to his current relationship, allowing him to navigate difficulties with greater wisdom and empathy. This journey of growth and learning has not only strengthened his bond with his wife, but has also set a positive example for their children, demonstrating the importance of resilience and adaptability in the face of life's challenges. In sharing these personal stories, the narrator invites viewers to reflect on their own family dynamics and the complexities of long-term relationships. He encourages an open dialogue about the ups and downs of marriage, emphasizing that every couple faces their own unique set of challenges. By being transparent about his experiences, he hopes to foster a sense of connection and understanding among viewers who may be navigating similar paths. Ultimately, this discussion serves as a reminder that while the journey of marriage can be fraught with obstacles, it is also filled with moments of joy, growth, and profound love. In this segment, we delve into the initial signs that sparked the narrator's suspicions of infidelity, a journey that began with subtle observations and culminated in a profound sense of unease. The narrator recounts how, over time, he began to notice changes in his wife's behavior that seemed out of character. These shifts were not overtly alarming at first, but they gradually accumulated, creating a cloud of doubt that began to overshadow their once harmonious relationship. He observed that she was spending more time on her phone, often texting or taking calls in private, which was unusual for her. While he initially attributed this to work-related matters or social interactions, a nagging feeling began to take root in his mind. One particular aspect that raised his suspicions was her interactions with Jason, their son's friend. Jason had been a part of their lives for several years, often coming over to hang out with their son. He was a charming young man, full of energy and enthusiasm, and the narrator had always appreciated his presence in their home. However, the narrator began to notice a shift in the dynamics between his wife and Jason. Their conversations seemed to linger longer than necessary, filled with laughter and inside jokes that felt exclusive to them. The way she would light up when he entered the room was a stark contrast to her demeanor around others, including the narrator. This change in behavior, while subtle, began to gnaw at the narrator's peace of mind, leading him to question the nature of their relationship. The turning point came one evening when the narrator inadvertently overheard a phone conversation that would change everything. He had been in the kitchen, preparing dinner, when he noticed his wife speaking in hushed tones in the living room. Curiosity piqued. He leaned closer to catch snippets of her conversation. What he heard sent chills down his spine. The tone of her voice was flirtatious, and the words exchanged were laced with an intimacy that felt inappropriate. Although he couldn't make out every detail, the context was enough to ignite a firestorm of doubt and suspicion in his mind. The realization that she was sharing personal thoughts and feelings with someone else, especially someone so close to their family, was devastating. It was a moment that shattered the illusion of trust he had built over the years. As the narrator reflects on this pivotal moment, he acknowledges the emotional turmoil that followed. The feelings of betrayal and confusion were overwhelming, and he found himself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. He felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief, struggling to reconcile the woman he loved with the possibility that she could be unfaithful. This internal conflict was compounded by the fear of confronting her about his suspicions, as he worried about the potential fallout and the impact it could have on their family. Jason, the young man at the center of this turmoil, had always been a well-liked member of their household. He was not only a friend to their son, but also someone who had shared countless family dinners and vacations. The narrator had always viewed him as a positive influence, someone who brought joy and laughter into their home. However, as the narrator began to connect the dots, he couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal from Jason as well. The thought that someone he had welcomed into their family could be involved in such a painful situation was a bitter pill to swallow. It added another layer of complexity to an already tumultuous emotional landscape. In the days that followed, the narrator found himself in a state of heightened vigilance, scrutinizing every interaction between his wife and Jason. He began to replay past events in his mind, searching for clues that might confirm his suspicions. The laughter that once felt innocent now seemed laden with hidden meanings, and the casual exchanges took on a new, more sinister light. This obsessive examination of their interactions only deepened his sense of isolation and despair, as he felt unable to share his concerns with anyone, fearing judgment or disbelief. As the narrator navigates this painful journey, he grapples with the realization that trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. The initial signs of infidelity, marked by subtle changes in behavior and overheard conversations, have set him on a path of uncertainty and heartache. This exploration of suspicion and betrayal serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of relationships and the profound impact that trust, or the lack thereof, can have on a family. The narrator's story invites viewers to reflect on their own experiences with trust and the complexities of human relationships, setting the stage for a deeper exploration of the emotional aftermath that follows. During a much-anticipated family vacation to the Caribbean, the narrator hoped to escape the mounting tension that had begun to cloud his home life. The trip was meant to be a time of relaxation and bonding, a chance to create lasting memories with his wife and children. However, as the days unfolded, the vacation became a backdrop for growing unease and suspicion, ultimately raising red flags that would haunt the narrator long after their return home. From the moment they arrived at the resort, the vibrant atmosphere of the Caribbean seemed to contrast sharply with the narrator's internal turmoil. The sun-drenched beaches, crystal-clear waters, and lively local culture were meant to provide a much-needed respite, yet he found himself increasingly distracted by his wife's behavior. She appeared more animated than usual, laughing and chatting with their son's friend, Jason, who had joined them on the trip. While it was not uncommon for families to vacation together, the narrator couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The way she interacted with Jason felt different, more intimate and carefree than he had ever seen before. As the family engaged in various activities, from snorkeling to beach volleyball, the narrator observed his wife's interactions with Jason closely. He noticed how she would often seek him out, sharing jokes and playful banter that seemed to exclude him and their children. The laughter that once filled their family outings now felt tinged with an undercurrent of tension for the narrator. He tried to brush off his feelings, convincing himself that perhaps he was simply overreacting, but the gnawing suspicion continued to grow. Each time he caught her stealing glances at Jason or leaning in a little too close during conversations, His heart sank further into a pit of anxiety. One evening, the family gathered for a beach bonfire, a highlight of their vacation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the sand, the narrator attempted to immerse himself in the moment. However, he couldn't help but notice that his wife and Jason had wandered off together, seemingly engrossed in their own world. The sight of them laughing together, their silhouettes illuminated by the flickering flames, sent a wave of unease crashing over him. He felt a tightening in his chest, a visceral reaction that he couldn't ignore. It was as if the very air around him had thickened with tension, and he struggled to focus on the laughter of his children and the warmth of the fire. The pivotal moment came later that night when the narrator decided to take a walk along the beach to clear his mind. As he strolled along the shoreline, the sound of the waves crashing against the sand provided a soothing backdrop, but his thoughts were anything but calm. He replayed the day's events in his mind, trying to rationalize his feelings of suspicion. Just as he was about to turn back, he noticed a flicker of movement in the distance. Curiosity piqued, he approached cautiously, his heart racing as he drew closer. To his shock, he caught sight of his wife and Jason standing together, their bodies angled toward one another in a way that felt far too intimate. They were deep in conversation, their voices low and conspiratorial, and the narrator felt a rush of adrenaline as he instinctively ducked behind a nearby palm tree. He held his breath, straining to hear their words, desperate for clarity. The sight of them together, so close and seemingly engrossed in each other, sent a jolt of betrayal through him. It was a moment that crystallized his fears, and he felt as though he were witnessing a scene that would forever alter the course of their lives. As he listened, he caught snippets of their conversation, laughter punctuating the air. The way they exchanged glances and leaned in closer made his stomach churn. It was as if they were sharing secrets meant only for each other, and the narrator felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness wash over him. He wanted to confront them, to demand answers, but fear held him back. What if he was misinterpreting the situation? What if he was about to ruin the vacation for everyone, including his children? The internal struggle was agonizing, and he felt trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. Eventually, his wife and Jason parted ways, and the narrator took a moment to collect himself before returning to the bonfire. He felt as though he had been thrust into a nightmare from which he couldn't awaken. The laughter and joy that had once characterized their family vacation now felt hollow and distant. As he rejoined his family, he plastered on a smile, but inside, he was grappling with a storm of emotions: anger, confusion, and a profound sense of loss. The vacation that was meant to be a celebration of their family had transformed into a painful reminder of the cracks that had begun to form in their relationship. In the days that followed, the narrator struggled to reconcile the idyllic setting of the Caribbean with the turmoil brewing within him. Each interaction with his wife felt strained, and he found himself questioning every word and gesture. The vacation, which should have been a time of joy and connection, had instead become a catalyst for doubt and suspicion. As they prepared to return home, the narrator knew that the events of this trip would linger in his mind, shaping the way he viewed his marriage and the trust that had been so carefully built over the years. The red flags that had emerged during their family vacation would serve as a haunting reminder of the fragility of love and the complexities of human relationships. The moment of confrontation between the narrator and his wife was a culmination of weeks filled with suspicion, anxiety, and heartache. As he prepared to address the growing rift in their relationship, the narrator felt a tumult of emotions swirling within him: fear, anger, and a profound sense of betrayal. His heart raced as he recalled the moments that had led him to this point: the laughter shared between his wife and Jason, the hushed phone conversations, and the unsettling feeling that something precious was slipping away. He knew that this conversation could either lead to a path of healing or irrevocably shatter the foundation of their marriage. When the narrator finally confronted his wife, the atmosphere in their home was thick with tension. He chose a quiet moment, hoping to find a space where they could talk without distractions. As he broached the subject, his voice trembled slightly, betraying the emotional weight he carried. "We need to talk about Jason," he began, his heart pounding in his chest. The words hung in the air, heavy with implications, and he watched as his wife's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness almost instantly. Her reaction was immediate and intense. "What are you talking about?" she shot back, her tone sharp and dismissive. The narrator could see the walls go up around her, a protective barrier that he had come to recognize all too well. She was not ready to engage in this conversation, and her defensive posture only fueled his anxiety. He felt a mix of frustration and sadness as he tried to articulate his feelings, but every attempt was met with denial. "You're being ridiculous," she insisted, her voice rising slightly. "There's nothing going on between me and Jason. You're just imagining things." As the confrontation escalated, the narrator's emotional state shifted from fear to anger. He felt the sting of her denial like a slap to the face, and it only deepened his sense of betrayal. "I've seen the way you two interact," he pressed, desperation creeping into his voice. "It's not just in my head. I overheard you on the phone, and I saw you together on vacation." Each revelation felt like a dagger, and he hoped that by laying bare his observations, he could break through her defenses. But instead of acknowledging his feelings, she doubled down on her denial, insisting that he was misinterpreting innocent interactions. The emotional toll of the confrontation was palpable. The narrator felt as though he were fighting against a brick wall, and with each denial, his heart sank further. He had hoped for an open dialogue, a chance to express his pain and seek understanding, but instead, he was met with resistance. The woman he loved seemed to be slipping away, replaced by someone who was unwilling to confront the reality of their situation. The more he pressed, the more she retreated, and he could see the fear in her eyes, a fear of being exposed, of facing the truth that had been lurking beneath the surface. As the confrontation wore on, the narrator's frustration morphed into a deep sense of loss. He realized that this moment was not just about Jason. It was about the unraveling of their marriage. The trust that had once been the bedrock of their relationship was now in tatters, and he felt the weight of that loss pressing down on him. He longed for the days when they could communicate openly, when laughter and love filled their home. Instead, he was left grappling with the possibility that the woman he had shared his life with for over 2 decades was hiding something significant from him. The impact of this confrontation was profound and far-reaching. As the argument reached a fever pitch, the narrator could feel the emotional distance between them widening. His wife's refusal to acknowledge his feelings only deepened the chasm, and he began to question whether they could ever return to the intimacy they once shared. The confrontation had stripped away the veneer of their relationship, exposing the raw wounds that had festered beneath the surface. It became clear to him that this moment would not only define their current state, but also shape the future of their marriage. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the narrator felt a sense of emptiness. The emotional release he had hoped for had not materialized. Instead, he was left with a heavy silence that filled the space between them. His wife, still defensive, withdrew further into herself, and the warmth that had once characterized their home was replaced by a cold, uncomfortable tension. The narrator found himself questioning everything: the love they had built, the memories they had created, and the future they had envisioned together. As days turned into weeks, the fallout from the confrontation lingered like a dark cloud over their relationship. The narrator struggled to navigate the emotional landscape, feeling both heartbroken and angry. He wanted to believe that they could work through this, that their love was strong enough to withstand the storm, but the seeds of doubt had been sown. Each interaction felt strained, and the laughter that once filled their home was replaced by awkward silences and unspoken words. The confrontation had irrevocably altered the dynamics of their relationship. The narrator was left grappling with the reality that trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. He found himself questioning not only his wife's fidelity, but also the very foundation of their marriage. The emotional scars from that moment would take time to heal, and he knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. As he navigated this painful chapter, he held onto a flicker of hope that, despite the turmoil, they could find a way back to each other. But for now, the confrontation had cast a long shadow over their lives, leaving them both to confront the painful truths that lay ahead. In the wake of the confrontation with his wife, the narrator found himself engulfed in a whirlwind of doubt and despair. The defensive reactions and outright denials had left him feeling more isolated than ever, and the nagging suspicion that something was amiss continued to gnaw at him. Desperate for clarity and a sense of control over his spiraling emotions, he made the difficult decision to install cameras in their home. It was a choice born out of desperation, a last-ditch effort to uncover the truth that had eluded him for so long. He justified it to himself as a means of protecting his family, but deep down, he knew it was a step into a dark and uncertain territory. The installation process was fraught with anxiety. Each camera was placed strategically, ensuring that he could capture the interactions in the most frequented areas of their home. As he set them up, he felt a mix of guilt and determination. He was invading the privacy of the woman he loved, but the fear of being blindsided by betrayal outweighed his reservations. He needed proof, something tangible that could either confirm his worst fears or provide a sense of relief. The thought of finding evidence of an affair was terrifying, yet the uncertainty of not knowing was even more unbearable. After a few days of monitoring the footage, the moment of truth arrived. The narrator sat in front of his computer, heart racing as he prepared to review the recordings. He felt a knot tightening in his stomach, a visceral reaction to the impending revelation. As he clicked through the footage, he was struck by the mundane nature of their daily lives. The kids coming home from school, his wife preparing dinner, the family gathered around the table. But then, as he continued to scroll through the clips, he stumbled upon a recording that would change everything. The timestamp indicated it was late in the evening, a time when he had been out running errands. The footage revealed his wife in the living room, her demeanor relaxed and carefree. But then, Jason entered the frame, and the atmosphere shifted. The way they interacted was electric, filled with an intimacy that sent a chill down the narrator's spine. He watched in disbelief as they shared laughter and playful touches, their body language betraying a closeness that felt far too intimate for mere friends. The moment felt surreal, as if he were watching a scene from a movie rather than a reality he had once cherished. As the video continued, the narrator's heart sank further. He witnessed them leaning in closer, whispering secrets that were meant to be shared only between lovers. The laughter that had once seemed innocent now felt like a dagger to his heart. He felt a wave of nausea wash over him as he realized that his worst fears were being confirmed before his very eyes. The evidence was undeniable. The betrayal he had sensed was now laid bare in front of him. The emotional turmoil that followed was overwhelming. He felt a rush of anger, sadness, and disbelief all at once. The woman he had loved for over 2 decades, the mother of his children, was engaging in an affair right under his nose. It felt like a betrayal of the deepest kind, a violation of the trust that had been the foundation of their marriage. In the days that followed the discovery, the narrator was engulfed in a storm of conflicting emotions. He oscillated between rage and heartbreak, struggling to process the reality of what he had seen. The footage replayed in his mind like a haunting echo, each laugh and shared glance a reminder of the intimacy he had thought was reserved for their marriage. He felt a profound sense of loss, not just for the relationship he had believed in, but for the life they had built together. The memories of their shared experiences, the laughter, and the love now felt tainted, overshadowed by the betrayal that had come to light. The emotional fallout was palpable. The narrator found it difficult to focus on anything else. His mind was consumed by thoughts of his wife and Jason. He felt a deep sense of isolation, as if he were trapped in a nightmare from which he could not awaken. The weight of the discovery pressed heavily on his chest, making it hard to breathe. He struggled to maintain a facade of normalcy around their children, forcing himself to smile and engage in family activities while his heart felt shattered inside. As he navigated this emotional turmoil, the narrator grappled with the question of what to do next. Confronting his wife again felt inevitable, but he was unsure how to approach the situation. The evidence he had gathered was irrefutable, yet he feared the fallout of revealing what he had seen. Would it lead to a confrontation that would further fracture their family? Or would it provide an opportunity for honesty and healing? The uncertainty loomed large, and he felt paralyzed by the weight of his decision. In the quiet moments, when he was alone with his thoughts, the narrator reflected on the life they had built together. He thought about their children, the love they had shared, and the dreams they had once held for the future. The discovery of the affair felt like a shattering of that dream, leaving him to pick up the pieces of a life that now felt irrevocably altered. He longed for clarity, for a way to navigate the pain and betrayal that had seeped into every corner of his existence. Ultimately, the discovery of the video evidence marked a turning point in the narrator's life. It forced him to confront the reality of his marriage and the choices that lay ahead. The emotional turmoil that followed was a testament to the depth of his love and the pain of betrayal. As he prepared to face his wife once more, he knew that the path forward would be fraught with challenges, but he also understood that he could no longer live in the shadows of doubt. The truth had been revealed, and it was time to confront it head-on, no matter the cost. In the wake of discovering the video evidence that confirmed his worst fears, the narrator found himself engulfed in a profound sense of betrayal. The emotional fallout was immediate and overwhelming, as the reality of his wife's infidelity settled heavily on his heart. Each moment replayed in his mind: the laughter shared between her and Jason, the intimate glances, the secrets whispered in the shadows of their home. It felt as if the very foundation of his life had crumbled beneath him, leaving him adrift in a sea of confusion and pain. The love he had once felt for his wife was now tainted by the knowledge of her betrayal, and he struggled to reconcile the woman he had loved with the actions that had shattered their marriage. As the days turned into weeks, the narrator grappled with the decision to seek a divorce. The thought of ending their 23-year marriage was daunting, yet the weight of the betrayal made it increasingly clear that he could no longer remain in a relationship built on lies. He felt a mix of anger and sadness as he contemplated the future, knowing that divorce would not only affect him, but also their children. The idea of breaking apart their family was a heavy burden to bear, and he found himself torn between the desire for personal healing and the need to protect his children from the fallout of their fractured relationship. The impact on the children was a constant source of anguish for the narrator. He watched as they navigated their own emotions, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface of their family life. Their laughter, once a source of joy, now felt like a bittersweet reminder of the innocence that was slipping away. He worried about how the news of their impending divorce would affect them, fearing that it would shatter their sense of security and stability. The thought of causing them pain was unbearable, and he found himself questioning whether he was making the right decision. Would staying together for their sake be better than facing the truth? Or would that only prolong the inevitable and lead to further resentment? As he wrestled with these thoughts, the narrator experienced an internal conflict that left him feeling paralyzed. On one hand, he longed for freedom from the pain of betrayal, a chance to rebuild his life and find happiness again. On the other hand, he felt a deep sense of loyalty to his family, a desire to protect his children from the harsh realities of adult relationships. He often found himself sitting in silence, contemplating the weight of his choices, feeling as though he were standing at a crossroads with no clear path forward. In moments of reflection, he considered the life they had built together, the memories of family vacations, birthday celebrations, and quiet evenings spent in each other's company. Those moments felt like distant echoes, overshadowed by the betrayal that had come to define their relationship. He questioned whether those memories were worth salvaging, or if they had been irrevocably tainted by the affair. The emotional turmoil was exhausting, and he felt as though he were caught in a relentless cycle of grief and anger. As he navigated this internal conflict, the narrator sought solace in conversations with trusted friends and family members. They offered support and perspective, encouraging him to prioritize his own well-being and that of his children. Yet, even as he listened to their advice, he struggled to silence the voice of doubt that whispered in his ear. What if he was making a mistake? What if divorce would only lead to more pain for everyone involved? The uncertainty loomed large, and he felt as though he were walking a tightrope, balancing the desire for personal healing with the need to protect his family. Ultimately, the decision to seek a divorce became a gradual realization rather than a sudden choice. It was a process marked by moments of clarity and doubt, as the narrator began to understand that staying in a relationship marred by betrayal would only perpetuate his suffering. He recognized that he deserved a life free from the shadows of deceit, a chance to rebuild and rediscover himself outside the confines of a broken marriage. Yet, The thought of initiating the divorce process filled him with dread. The logistics of separating their lives, dividing assets, and navigating co-parenting felt overwhelming, and he feared the emotional toll it would take on everyone involved. As he prepared to take the next steps, the narrator also began to consider how to approach the conversation with his children. He knew that honesty was essential, but he also wanted to shield them from the harsh realities of adult relationships. The thought of breaking their hearts weighed heavily on him, and he found himself rehearsing the words he would say, hoping to find a way to convey the truth without causing unnecessary pain. He wanted them to understand that the divorce was not their fault, that they were still loved and cherished, and that they would always be a family, even if it looked different moving forward. In the midst of this emotional turmoil, the narrator found himself grappling with the complexities of love and loss. He mourned not only the end of his marriage, but also the dreams and aspirations they had once shared. The journey ahead felt daunting, filled with uncertainty and heartache, but he also sensed a flicker of hope, a possibility for renewal and growth. As he navigated the difficult path of divorce, he held on to the belief that, despite the pain, there was a chance for healing and a brighter future for himself and his children. The emotional fallout of betrayal had irrevocably changed his life, but it also opened the door to new beginnings, and he was determined to embrace whatever lay ahead. When the narrator finally gathered the courage to share the news of the divorce with his children, he felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. He knew that this moment would change everything for them, and the thought of shattering their sense of security was almost unbearable. As he sat them down in the living room, he could see the innocence in their eyes, unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the emotional fallout that would inevitably follow. The moment he uttered the words, "Your mother and I are getting a divorce," the atmosphere shifted dramatically. His eldest child, a teenager on the cusp of adulthood, looked stunned, as if the ground had been pulled out from beneath him. The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by the sound of his younger sibling's soft whimper. The narrator watched helplessly as confusion morphed into disbelief, and then into a torrent of emotions. His son's face flushed with anger, and he shouted, "Why? What did we do wrong?" The question hung in the air, a painful reminder of the innocence that was being stripped away. The narrator felt his heart break as he struggled to find the right words to reassure them. His daughter, who had always been the more sensitive of the two, burst into tears. "I don't want you to get divorced," she cried, her small frame shaking with the force of her emotions. The narrator reached out to comfort her, but he felt a profound sense of helplessness. How could he explain the complexities of adult relationships to children who were still trying to navigate their own feelings? He wanted to tell them that this was not their fault, that they were loved beyond measure, but the words felt inadequate in the face of their pain. As the days passed, the emotional reactions of the children continued to unfold. They oscillated between anger, sadness, and confusion, struggling to comprehend the reality of their parents' separation. The narrator watched as they grappled with their feelings, often retreating into their rooms or lashing out in frustration. Family dinners, once filled with laughter and conversation, became strained and awkward. The absence of their mother's warmth and the palpable tension in the air created an atmosphere of discomfort that hung over the household like a dark cloud. Meanwhile, the narrator's wife attempted to maintain a facade of normalcy, desperately trying to shield the children from the full weight of the situation. She organized family outings and insisted on keeping up with their usual routines, hoping to create a sense of stability amidst the chaos. However, her efforts often felt forced, and the children could sense the underlying tension. The narrator observed her struggle to balance her own emotions with the need to appear composed for their sake. It was a delicate dance, and he could see the toll it was taking on her. She would smile and laugh, but her eyes betrayed the turmoil she was experiencing. Despite her attempts to keep things together, the cracks in their family dynamic were becoming increasingly evident. The children would often ask questions that revealed their confusion about the situation. "Are we still going to have family vacations?" his son would inquire, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "Will Mom and Dad still be friends?" his daughter would ask, her eyes wide with worry. Each question felt like a dagger to the narrator's heart. a reminder of the life they had once shared and the dreams that were now slipping away. In the midst of this emotional upheaval, the narrator found himself grappling with his own pain while trying to support his children. He felt like he was walking a tightrope, balancing the need to be strong for them while also processing his own grief. The weight of the divorce felt heavy on his shoulders, and he often found himself overwhelmed by feelings of sadness and loss. He would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events that had led to this moment, questioning every decision he had made. Yet, during the day, he forced himself to put on a brave face, to be the rock his children needed. He often took them out for ice cream or to the park, trying to create moments of joy amidst the turmoil. But even in those moments, he felt a sense of disconnect. He would watch them laugh and play, and a part of him would ache for the family they used to be. He wanted to be fully present for them, to share in their happiness, but the shadow of the divorce loomed large, making it difficult to fully engage. He felt like he was living in two worlds, one where he was a devoted father, and another where he was a man grappling with the end of his marriage. As the weeks turned into months, the emotional fallout from the divorce continued to ripple through their lives. The children began to express their feelings more openly, sharing their fears and frustrations with their father. They would have late-night conversations, where they would talk about their worries and uncertainties. The narrator listened intently, offering comfort and reassurance, but he also felt the weight of their pain pressing down on him. He wanted to be their safe haven, but he also struggled with the reality that he was navigating his own grief. The narrator's internal conflict deepened as he tried to balance his role as a father with the emotional turmoil he was experiencing. He often questioned whether he was doing enough to support his children while also taking care of himself. The guilt of feeling sad while they were hurting weighed heavily on him. He wanted to be their pillar of strength, but he also needed to process his own feelings of betrayal and loss. It was a delicate balance, and he often felt like he was failing at both. In the end, the family's response to the news of the divorce was a complex tapestry of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, and a desperate longing for the stability they once knew. The narrator found himself navigating uncharted waters, trying to support his children while grappling with his own pain. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he held on to the hope that, together, they could find a way to heal and rebuild their lives in the wake of the upheaval. The road would be long, but he was determined to be there for his children, even as he faced his own heartache. The final confrontation between the narrator and his wife was a moment that had been building for months, a culmination of tension, heartache, and unresolved questions. After weeks of emotional turmoil following the revelation of the affair, the narrator felt an overwhelming need for clarity. He had spent countless nights wrestling with his thoughts, replaying the evidence he had gathered, and grappling with the pain of betrayal. It was time to confront the truth head-on, no matter how painful it might be. As they sat across from each other in the living room, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken words. The narrator's heart raced as he prepared to ask the questions that had haunted him for so long. "How long has this been going on?" he finally asked, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within him. He watched as his wife's expression shifted, her eyes darting away as if searching for an escape from the reality of the moment. After a long pause, she took a deep breath, her shoulders slumping as she finally met his gaze. "It started about a year ago," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and the narrator felt as though the ground had shifted beneath him. A year. The realization struck him like a physical blow, and he struggled to process the enormity of what she was saying. The life they had built together, the moments they had shared, all tainted by the knowledge that she had been living a double life. As she continued to speak, detailing the nature of the affair, the narrator felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. She described how it had begun innocently enough, with Jason being a friend who had provided her with companionship during a time when she felt disconnected from him. The way she spoke about it made it seem almost trivial, as if the emotional betrayal was somehow justified by her feelings of loneliness. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said, her voice trembling. "It just happened. I felt so alone, and he was there for me." The narrator's heart sank further as he listened to her attempts to rationalize her actions. He felt a surge of frustration, a desperate need to make her understand the depth of the pain she had caused. "You could have talked to me," he replied, his voice rising slightly. "We could have worked through it together. Instead, you chose to betray me." The hurt in his voice was palpable, and he could see the guilt wash over her face. Yet, even in her remorse, there was a defensive edge to her demeanor, as if she was trying to protect herself from the full weight of her actions. As the conversation unfolded, the narrator found himself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. Anger coursed through him, mingling with a profound sadness that felt all-consuming. He had loved this woman, had built a life with her, and now he was faced with the reality that she had chosen to share her heart with someone else. The betrayal felt like a knife twisting in his gut, and he struggled to contain the flood of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. He wanted to scream, to cry, to make her feel the pain that he was experiencing, but instead, he found himself sitting in stunned silence, absorbing the weight of her confession. His wife's emotional state was equally complex. As she spoke, tears streamed down her cheeks, and the narrator could see the turmoil etched on her face. She was clearly grappling with her own guilt and shame, yet there was also a sense of defiance in her tone. "I didn't want to hurt you," she insisted, her voice cracking. "I was just trying to find some happiness in a time when I felt so lost." The justification felt hollow to the narrator, and he struggled to reconcile the woman he had loved with the one sitting before him, confessing to a betrayal that had shattered their family. The conversation took on a surreal quality as they navigated the emotional landscape of their relationship. The narrator felt as though he were watching a scene unfold from a distance, unable to fully grasp the reality of what was happening. He wanted to reach out and comfort her, to tell her that everything would be okay, but the weight of her actions made that impossible. Instead, he felt a growing sense of resolve within himself. This was not just about her. It was about him, too. He had to prioritize his own healing and well-being, even if it meant letting go of the woman he had once loved so deeply. As the discussion continued, the narrator pressed for more details, seeking to understand the full scope of the affair. He wanted to know how many times it had happened, how deeply involved they had become. Each revelation felt like a fresh wound, reopening the scars of betrayal that had begun to form. His wife's responses were tinged with regret, but there was also a sense of defensiveness that made it difficult for him to fully empathize with her pain. "It was never supposed to be serious," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't want to lose you, but I felt so alone." The narrator's heart ached at her words, but he couldn't shake the feeling of anger that bubbled beneath the surface. "You didn't think about how this would affect our family," he shot back, his voice rising again. "You didn't think about the kids? About me?" The frustration in his tone was palpable, and he could see the hurt in her eyes as she absorbed his words. It was a painful reminder that their lives had been irrevocably altered by her choices, and the consequences were far-reaching. As the confrontation drew to a close, the narrator felt a sense of finality settling in. The truth had been laid bare, and there was no going back. He realized that the love they had once shared had been overshadowed by betrayal, and the path forward would be fraught with challenges. The emotional fallout from this conversation would linger long after the words had been spoken, shaping the future of their relationship and their family. In that moment, the narrator understood that he had a choice to make. He could either continue to fight for a relationship that had been irrevocably damaged, or begin the painful process of letting go. The weight of the decision felt heavy on his shoulders, but he knew that he had to prioritize his own healing and the well-being of his children. As he looked into his wife's tear-streaked face, he felt a mix of sadness and resolve. The journey ahead would be difficult, but he was determined to find a way to move forward, even if it meant leaving behind the life he had once known. In today's video, we've taken a deep dive into the narrator's poignant journey through betrayal, confrontation, and the emotional turmoil that followed. This story is not just about infidelity. It's a powerful exploration of the complexities of love, trust, and the painful realities that can emerge in relationships. The narrator's experience serves as a reminder of how fragile trust can be and how vital open communication is in maintaining the bonds we share with our loved ones. We began by recounting the initial signs that led the narrator to suspect his wife's infidelity. Subtle changes in her behavior, coupled with the growing closeness to their son's friend, Jason, created a sense of unease that lingered in the back of his mind. The moment he overheard a phone conversation that hinted at something more was a turning point, igniting a whirlwind of emotions that would ultimately lead to a confrontation. This pivotal moment highlights the importance of being aware of the dynamics in our relationships and the need for honest communication. The confrontation itself was a heart-wrenching experience, filled with raw emotions as the narrator sought the truth. His wife's defensive reactions and attempts to deny the affair only deepened his sense of betrayal. As she finally confessed to the affair, revealing its duration and nature, the emotional fallout was palpable. The narrator's feelings of anger, sadness, and confusion were laid bare, illustrating the profound impact that betrayal can have on a relationship. This moment serves as a crucial reminder that honesty, even when it's painful, is essential for healing and moving forward. As the story unfolded, we also explored the impact of the divorce on their children and the family dynamics that shifted as a result. The narrator's struggle to support his children while grappling with his own pain was a poignant aspect of the narrative. It underscored the reality that relationships are not just about the individuals involved. They also encompass the lives of those around them. The emotional turmoil experienced by the children highlighted the importance of considering the broader implications of our actions and decisions. Throughout this journey, we've seen how trust can be easily broken but is incredibly challenging to rebuild. The narrator's experience serves as a powerful reminder of the need for open dialogue in relationships. It's essential to communicate our feelings, fears, and desires with our partners, fostering an environment where both individuals feel safe to express themselves. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and without it, the connection can quickly deteriorate. As we wrap up this video, we encourage you to reflect on your own experiences with trust and communication in your relationships. Have you faced similar challenges? How did you navigate the complexities of betrayal and emotional turmoil? We invite you to share your thoughts and stories in the comments section below. Your experiences can provide valuable insights and support to others who may be going through similar situations. If you found this video impactful, please consider subscribing to our channel for more content that delves into the intricacies of relationships and personal growth. Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends or family who might benefit from hearing this story. Together, we can foster a community of understanding and support where we can learn from one another and grow through our shared experiences. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. Remember, while betrayal can be devastating, it can also serve as a catalyst for personal growth and healing. By prioritizing trust and communication, we can work towards building stronger, healthier relationships. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and continuing this important conversation.